Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good afternoon, I'm Selena Teixeira, and here's your latest news at 3:30. Odds are one will come across the new parking meters when walking along the Lonsdale Avenue. Some are unveiled and ready to use, while others are not yet open. Our reporter Braden Coombs explains how this will affect workers in the area.
Phase 1 of the City of North Vancouver's plan to implement pay parking in the Lonsdale area has begun. Some businesses around the area are frustrated about how this will affect their customers and their employees. Sarah Norman, a hairstylist at Moon Boutique Salon, now has to pay for parking every time she starts one of her shifts. She believes this is something the city did not take into account.
Yeah, employees, people, I would say 90% of the people that park down here work in these businesses. Everyone that's parking down here works in either the lawyer's office across the street or even the grocery store across the street. And we now have to pay to go to work.
Residents around the area are now eligible to apply for parking permits. But the workers without designated staff lots don't have the same luxury. Braden Coombs, BCIT News.
Police in Abbotsford, BC say they are launching their own task force to target local extortion cases, a week after the announcement of the provincial team to investigate crimes that have been focused on the South Asian community. The Abbotsford Department says its task force will bring in full and part-time members from other areas, and the team will disrupt and investigate extortion cases in the city. Last week, Mounties and the BC government announced a provincial extortion task force, which involves 40 members from enforcement agencies across the province. Abbotsford police say that they have received 38 reports of extortion-related cases since November 2023, with all but 2 of the cases being non-violent, involving instances such as threatening phone calls, letters, or text messages. Abbotsford police say 2 of its officers will be serving on the provincial task force. RCMP Staff Sergeant Chris Clark has confirmed 2 people have been arrested at the British Columbia farm, where the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is expected to begin culling ostrich after some of the flock was infected with the avian flu. Clark would not confirm who was taken into custody, but did say that the people inside the enclosure refused to leave and, quote, were subsequently arrested.
Primary role here is to keep the peace and to enforce the law if necessary. We are here to secure the property and to ensure the safety of not only the public but also the CFIA officers while they conduct their business.
At least 30 deers have been found dead in the last 2 weeks. Samples are being collected to try and figure out what has killed the animals in and around Grand Forks, BC. Jeff Gailey, president of the Grand Forks Wildlife Association, says he won't speculate on the cause, but the samples will be tested for blue tongue and episodic hemorrhage disease, which has killed a large number of California bighorn sheep in the region in 2021. Gailey says some of the animals appear to be in good health when their bodies were found, though a young animal was recently discovered with some discharge. He said the local veterinarian is not able to do the testing, so the samples will have to be taken nearly 200 kilometers north to Penticton for answers, hopefully, by Wednesday. The provincial government website describes EHD and blue tongue as similar hemorrhage diseases where viruses cause sudden death. The head of the Bank of Canada says he's worried about U.S. President Donald Trump's attacks on the American Federal Reserve. Trump has reportedly floated hiring Fed Chair Jerome Powell and its legal battles to try and oust some of the Fed's governors. The Bank of Canada's Tiff Macklem says monetary policy must be independent to keep prices stable, and he backs his counterparts south of the border.
Chairman Powell is doing a very good job under very trying circumstances, and he is guiding monetary policy based on evidence, not politics.
The Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service says it has responded to the continuancy office of Bernadette Smith 4 times since the start of August. Smith is the Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness and represents the Point Douglas area. It comes as police are investigating damage at offices of 2 Manitoba cabinet members who represent neighborhoods in Winnipeg. Families Minister Nahini Fontaine has had her continuancy office smashed, and investigations are ongoing in both instances. With Canada now recognizing Palestine, reaffirming its goal of a two-state solution. Our reporter James Nyo has more on the reactions that have come up.
Prime Minister Mark Carney announced on Sunday that Canada will formally recognize the state of Palestine as they continue their goal of a two-state solution. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has condemned the decision, saying that Canada is, quote, rewarding terror. SFU Professor James Horncastle notes that Canada recognizes the wrongdoings of both countries.
Canada noted that while it recognizes Israel's right to basically strike back after the October 7th attacks, simultaneously Canada feels that essentially the current Israeli government is pushing things too far in terms of basically their policies, specifically with regards to their plans to potentially end up annexing Gaza.
Netanyahu has said that there will be no Palestinian state west of the Jordan River. James Ngo, BCIT News.
Now moving on to international news, at the UN Assembly meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron, President Trump says he feels with the support of the European Union, Ukraine can win back all their territory, suggesting Russia may be a paper tiger.
It's been a terrible war, should have ended, and Russia should have stopped it. But they've been 3.5 years and they've gotten not so far. So we'll see what happens. But the other side can fight too, and they've proven that. Maybe it could be that Russia's a paper tiger. I don't know what they are, but 3.5 years of fighting and killing everybody, of killing 7,000 people a week for nothing.
Another comment by French President Emmanuel Macron says he understands the U.S. leaders' resistance, but goes on to explain why 11 countries moved to recognize Palestine statehood on Monday.
We lost a lot of French people in these terrorist attacks. But after almost 2 years of war, what is the result? Once again, they killed the top leaders of Hamas. It works. This is a great achievement. But at the same time, you have as many Hamas fighters as you had the first day. So it doesn't work to dismantle the Hamas. This is not the right way to proceed.
The United Nations chief is challenging world leaders to choose a future where the rule of law triumphs over raw power. He wants nations to come together rather than scramble for self-interests. Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the UN's founder faced the same questions 80 years ago. He told today's world leaders at the opening of their annual gathering at the General Assembly that the choice of peace or war, law or lawlessness, cooperation or conflict is even more urgent and intertwined than ever. He said the world has entered an age of relentless human suffering. After everything going on at the United Nations Assembly today, President Donald Trump has announced his administration is recommending women limit Tylenol use during their pregnancy unless necessary. He claims Tylenol is linked to autism, but experts criticize this as unfounded. Trump also made several erroneous statements, including incorrectly stating the history of autism rates and that vaccines play a role. Additionally, medical professionals emphasize that Tylenol is safe during pregnancy when needed. They warn that untreated fevers can lead to serious complications for both mother and baby. AP correspondent David Fisher reports that Ryan Routh spoke to the jury in closing arguments about the suspect being found guilty of attempting to shoot President Donald Trump.
He basically made the argument that there was no intent to actually harm anyone. He pointed out that he never pulled the trigger, never fired a shot, despite the fact that he claims that he had a clear shot of President Trump and the Secret Service agent who confronted him. But he says he never pulled the trigger because it's not in his nature to harm anyone.
Now on to our latest sports news. Vancouver Whitecaps are returning to the MLS. All eyes will be on BC Place tomorrow night as Whitecaps host longtime Cascadia rivals, the Portland Timbers. This will be midfielder Thomas Muller's first rivalry game against the Timbers. Kickoff is set for 7:30 p.m., and fans can expect a high-energy clash between teams. All-star shortstop Bo Bichette and veteran slugger Anthony Santander are both taking batting practice with the Toronto Blue Jays. Bichette has been out since September 6th with a sprained left knee. Blue Jays manager John Schneider says Bichette took swings in the batting cage Monday and would again today. Santander has been out with a shoulder injury since May 29th. He has been doing rehab assignments with a Triple-A Buffalo Bisons, but the minor leagues team ended Sunday. Schneider says Santander was also in Toronto and, like Bichette, would take batting practice. New Orleans Pelicans star Zion Williamson had trouble with injuries in the last few years, missing 52 games last season. Williamson is hoping a new workout plan will help, and so far, he says he likes the results.
Dude, it feels good to feel good. I haven't felt like this since college, high school, just where I can walk in the gym and I'm like, I feel good.
Major League Baseball is implementing robot umpires as a new challenge system. ABC's Alex Stone has more on why they made the decision.
Major League Baseball isn't doing away with human umpires, but after a trial, the league says robot umpires are coming next season. As part of the fairly new challenge system, teams will be able to challenge balls and strikes calls in spring training and during the regular and postseason. The system has been tested in the minor leagues. Using a dozen cameras, computers can read if it was a ball or a strike, and with the tap of their helmet or their ball cap, a pitcher, catcher, or batter can call for a review of a ball or strike. Each team will start the game with 2 challenges available to them. Alex Stone, ABC News.
The Americans are an easy target for Europe at the Ryder Cup. It has nothing to do with them being outplayed, but it's about how much they're getting paid. Europeans have been sniping at the U.S. team for a plan that gives them $300,000 for charity and $200,000 stipend. The American players say it's all going to charity, but it's a bad look and leaves them open to criticism because of all the money in golf. The weather in the lower mainland today will be mostly sunny, with a high of 20 degrees for the next few hours and a cool breeze for the rest of the evening. That was your latest news headlines for the afternoon. I'm Selena Teixeira, and you're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
I would recommend this program for anyone that isn't sure what kind of job they want in media, because you learn everything from like public relations to communications to video editing, like radio, TV. So you do get a lot of experience in all the different fields in media.